Raw, bold, and real, Bernie Mac spent over a decade grinding it out in small Chicago clubs before finally catching his big break in his 30s. From that point on, his rise was unstoppable. From stand-up stardom to blockbuster movies to his own hit TV show. But just when it seemed like nothing could slow him down, tragedy hit. In 2008, Bernie was hospitalized with pneumonia. After 3 painful weeks in intensive care, he passed away at only 50. In this video, we're taking a look inside the now-abandoned house he once shared with his wife, Rhonda, the woman who stood by him through the highs, the lows, and everything in between. We'll also explore how much Bernie was worth when he died, and the deeply personal reason Rhonda chose to move forward after his passing. What really happened in those final days? And how does a man with so much to give leave so suddenly? Stick with us as we revisit the life, love, and legacy of the great Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac's net worth. How much was the comedian worth when he died? When Bernie Mac passed away in 2008, it sent shockwaves through the world. At just 50 years old, his death, caused by complications from sarcoidosis, seemed sudden and unimaginable. Fans were stunned. His family was devastated. His wife, Rhonda McCullough, who had been by his side since they were teenagers, recalled his final moments in a deeply emotional interview with Oprah Winfrey. "When they finally let me go into the room to see him," she said, "I was like, oh my God." He was just shaking. I remember telling him, "Please don't die. I'm here. I'm waiting for you. I'll take care of you. Just don't die." Rhonda and Bernie had been married since 1977, a bond that began in high school and lasted over 3 decades. Losing him wasn't just losing a husband. It was losing her best friend. For fans, Bernie wasn't just a comedian. He was a force. A Chicago native who rose from humble beginnings, Bernie spent more than 12 years performing in small clubs before breaking into film in the early 90s and eventually earning his own primetime sitcom. While his death came as a heartbreaking surprise, the fact that he left behind a sizable fortune didn't. His decades-long career had brought both fame and financial success. According to Celebrity Net Worth, Bernie Mac had accumulated around $15 million by the time he died. He used that wealth to create a comfortable life for his family, including a stunning 10-room home in the Chicago suburbs, complete with marble floors and a 10-foot swimming pool. But money was never what drove him. In a conversation with Oprah, Bernie made his philosophy clear. If you focus on being the best in yourself, all that stuff will come. People say, "Get your money on." I hate that. That's your motivation? If you do well, the money will come. He added, "Quit focusing on the money. It's not about that. My love for comedy is just unbelievable." That love gave him a remarkable career and left behind a legacy that continues to inspire comedians to this day. From South Side struggles to stand-up stardom. Bernard Jeffrey McCullough, better known to the world as Bernie Mac, was born on October 5, 1957, in Chicago, Illinois. He was the second child of Mary McCullough and Jeffrey Harrison, but his father was largely absent from his life. Raised by his single mother and grandparents on the south side of Chicago. From a young age, Bernie used humor as a shield and a lifeline. The tough streets of Chicago offered few comforts, but his natural wit and ability to make people laugh gave him a sense of purpose. Comedy quickly became more than just a hobby. It was his escape, his therapy, and eventually, his calling. Throughout his 20s and early 30s, Bernie juggled a series of jobs to make ends meet. He worked as a janitor, a cook, a professional mover, a bus driver, and even a basketball coach. But on weekends, he came alive under the spotlight, performing at clubs, house parties, and anywhere he could grab a mic. In the 1970s, Bernie began carving out a space for himself in Chicago's stand-up comedy circuit. His act stood out for its fearless honesty, razor-sharp timing, and undeniable charisma. Breaking through the noise. How Bernie Mac Became a Comedy Legend. Bernie Mac's big break came in the early 1990s when he landed a spot on HBO's Def Comedy Jam. It was a turning point that catapulted him from local fame to national recognition. His raw, no-holds-barred comedy hit audiences like a freight train, honest, bold, and unfiltered. He didn't just make people laugh, he made them feel something. That fearless energy quickly earned him a reputation as one of the most charismatic voices in comedy. With his name now on the map, Bernie started landing roles in films like House Party 3 and Friday, showing off his versatility and proving he could shine on screen just as brightly as he did on stage. But his career truly soared when he starred as a fictional version of himself in The Bernie Mac Show. As Uncle Bernie, he didn't just crack jokes. He told stories, tackled real-life issues, and connected with audiences on a deeper level. The show was a critical success, earning him a Primetime Emmy and cementing his place in TV history. On the big screen, he lit up ensemble films like Ocean's 11 and its sequels, holding his own alongside Hollywood giants. Whether in a starring role or a supporting one, Bernie Mac always left a lasting impression. And then came the moment that defined his legacy, the night he stepped onto the stage at Def Comedy Jam and delivered what many still call one of the greatest stand-up sets of all time. The performer before him had been booed off the stage. Backstage, Bill Bellamy warned Bernie that the crowd was ruthless. But Bernie, cool as ever, responded, "I've been doing this too long. I ain't scared of 'em." Moments later, he walked onto the stage, grabbed the mic, and declared, "I ain't scared of you, The room erupted. It wasn't planned. It wasn't scripted. It was pure instinct, and it was legendary. That night, Bernie Mac didn't just win the crowd. He claimed his crown, Bernie Mac's advice to young comedians and the legacy he left behind. Bernie Mac never sugarcoated the truth, on stage or off. And when it came to advice for up-and-coming comedians, he was brutally honest. One of his golden rules? Don't test your new material in a room full of other comics. That's like stealing in front of the police, he warned. Comedians might nod and say, "That's funny," but next thing you know, your punchline shows up on someone else's HBO special. You'll be sitting at home like, "That was mine," he said, "but no one's going to believe you." For Bernie, it was simple. First come, first served. His advice was clear. If you're working on something new, don't unveil it in a crowd of fellow comics. Protect your voice, protect your work. But Bernie Mac wasn't just a master of timing and delivery, he was a cultural force. His impact on the world of entertainment went far beyond the stage. As one of the first black comedians to successfully bridge the gap between stand-up comedy and mainstream Hollywood, Bernie shattered barriers. His style was bold, unapologetic, and deeply human. "I'm a comedian," he once said. "Not a black comic. I didn't want a black show. I wanted a show that made everybody laugh." And that's exactly what he did. Through the Bernie Mac Show, blockbuster films, and unforgettable stand-up sets, he connected with people of all backgrounds. He made them laugh. He made them think. And above all, he made them feel seen. Off stage, Bernie's heart was just as big as his humor. He gave back to the community that raised him, especially through his philanthropic efforts focused on asthma awareness and sarcoidosis research, two health issues that touched his own life deeply. A sudden illness and silent struggle. At the height of his career, when Bernie Mac was celebrated on screens across America, life behind the scenes took a devastating turn. In 2008, fans were stunned to learn that Bernie had been hospitalized with complications from pneumonia. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, and concern quickly mounted as more details emerged. What many didn't know was that Bernie had been privately battling sarcoidosis for years, a serious inflammatory disease that affects the lungs and other organs. Despite the diagnosis, he never let it slow him down. He kept working, performing, and bringing joy to millions. But pneumonia, compounded by sarcoidosis, became too much for his body to fight. A final farewell. On August 9, 2008, the world lost a giant in comedy. Bernie Mac passed away at just 50 years old. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest due to pneumonia complications, but the underlying struggle with sarcoidosis added gravity to his final days. For years, he had quietly endured a condition that sapped his strength, even as he gave so much to his audience. His death marked not only the end of a vibrant career, but the silencing of a one-of-a-kind voice that had reshaped stand-up comedy, a legacy etched in laughter. Bernie Mac's passing left a deep void. Fans, fellow comedians, and actors paid tribute, each with stories of his talent, his generosity, and his fierce individuality. His co-stars from the original kings of comedy remembered him with admiration and awe. "Every night we handed that mic to B-Man," one of them recalled, "because no matter how funny the rest of us were, Bernie had something extra." Another said, "He was like a train wreck. You just couldn't look away. He ran those jokes straight through you, and he didn't care if you were ready or not." Bernie often said, "I walk alone." It became something of a mantra, one that hinted at the inner strength he carried throughout his life. But looking back, those who knew him best saw something deeper. He wasn't walking alone at all. He walked with his family, with his faith, and with the millions who laughed with him night after night. One friend put it best: "I just hope Jesus knows how lucky he is." This is why Bernie Mac's widow moved on so quickly, their love story. Back in 1974, while attending Chicago Vocational High School, Bernie Mac met a young woman named Rhonda Gore through a mutual friend. Bernie, never one to shy away from confidence, told her with a grin, "Girl, you better get on this train, 'cause I'm going to be rich and famous." At first, Rhonda wasn't quite sure what all the other girls saw in him, but the moment they started talking, she understood. Bernie had a magnetic charm that was impossible to ignore. Soon, they were inseparable. A couple of years later, Rhonda became pregnant. Despite their young age, Bernie was just 20 and Rhonda 19, they made the decision to get married. On September 17, 1977, they tied the knot. The following year, their daughter Janice was born. That same year, Bernie also suffered the loss of his biological father. Their early years together weren't easy. Bernie often told Rhonda they would be rich one day, but in reality they were struggling. There were times they relied on food stamps. Bernie jumped from job to job, delivering UPS packages, managing restaurants, driving Wonder Bread trucks, and even coaching basketball. All the while, he was hustling at nightclubs, chasing his dream of comedy. He once told Oprah he earned only about $25 a year doing stand-up in those early days. Determined to help create a better life for their family, Rhonda enrolled in school and became a registered nurse by 1986. For years, she was the main breadwinner, while Bernie kept grinding in the comedy world. Then, in 1990, everything changed. Bernie entered the Miller Lite Comedy Search, hosted by none other than Red Fox. The prize was $3,000 and a slot opening for Fox in Las Vegas. When Bernie's name was called as the winner, he was stunned. That check was the most money he had ever held, but he didn't splurge. Instead, he put the entire prize into a college fund for Janice. It was the next day. While delivering bread on his route, that reality finally hit him. Tears streamed down his face as he dropped off loaves, knowing deep down his life was about to change. Right then and there, Bernie decided to quit. "You're a comedian now," he told himself. He went home, looked Rhonda in the eyes, and said, "If I don't try this, I'm going to die." Without hesitation, Rhonda replied, "I'm with you." As Bernie Mac's star continued to rise, it became clear he wasn't just a stand-up comic anymore, he was becoming a household name. After making waves on Def Comedy Jam, he landed roles in hit movies like Mo Money, appeared alongside legends like Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, and joined the star-studded cast of Ocean's 11. He even had his own HBO variety show, Midnight Mac, and was later featured in The Original Kings of Comedy, a moment that solidified him as one of the greats. Then came 2001. Bernie debuted The Bernie Mac Show, a sitcom inspired by his stand-up routines and real-life experiences. It was a hit, earning him critical acclaim and a loyal fan base. While Bernie's schedule was packed with filming and touring, his wife Rhonda kept their world grounded. She managed their home, paid the bills, handled his finances, and raised their daughter. Bernie lovingly referred to her as the boss. Even with the pressures of fame and constant travel, when many celebrity marriages would have faltered, Rhonda stayed confident and steady. She later said, "At that point, I was very secure in my role as his wife and didn't have to worry about anything. Their rising success brought financial security." After they made their first million, Rhonda was able to retire from nursing, a huge milestone after years of supporting their family. And when her sister struggled with addiction, Bernie stepped in without hesitation. He rescued their niece and her young daughter from a crack house, bringing them into his home and raising them as his own. Off stage, Bernie was a devoted family man. He loved pulling pranks on Rhonda and making her laugh, but those closest to him also knew his gentler side. In an interview with Ebony, Rhonda described him as deeply sensitive beneath the tough exterior. Their 3-story, 20-room home in the Chicago suburbs became Bernie's safe haven. He wasn't big on nightlife or celebrity parties. What he cherished most was quiet time surrounded by friends, family, and the people who truly knew him. At home, Bernie Mac found peace in the simple things, especially Rhonda's cooking. It was his favorite comfort. Rhonda once shared with Cuisine Noire magazine that she'd bring him breakfast in bed, and before he even finished, he'd already be asking, "What do you think we can have for lunch?" But behind the laughter and comfort, Bernie's health was quietly becoming a growing concern. In 2003, after a demanding stretch promoting Ocean's 12 and working on multiple film projects, he fell seriously ill with pneumonia in both lungs. The illness intensified complications from sarcoidosis, an inflammatory disease he had been quietly battling since 1983. When reports surfaced in the media claiming he was terminally ill, fans feared the worst, but Bernie managed to bounce back. Sadly, the recovery was short-lived. Once he returned to work on The Bernie Mac Show, his body began to break down again. In a candid interview with the LA Times, Bernie described a moment when he had to stop halfway from his dressing room to the set, bent over and gasping for air. Production on the show was halted, and Bernie went home to Chicago to rest, with Rhonda by his side. The show officially wrapped in 2006. A year later, Bernie and Rhonda turned their pain into purpose, founding the Bernie Mac Foundation to raise awareness about sarcoidosis and support those living with the disease. But in July 2008, Bernie's condition took a turn for the worse. During what was supposed to be a routine visit to his dermatologist, Dr. Renee Earls, who had been treating skin lesions caused by sarcoidosis, Bernie showed up with troubling symptoms, a fever, fatigue, and serious difficulty breathing. According to Rhonda, Bernie's vital signs were unstable for hours while at Earl's office, and his heart rate was dangerously high. Yet 911 was never called. Dr. Earls later told the Sun-Times that he believed Bernie was having a bad reaction to cold medication from another physician and opted to administer a different drug to counteract it. Eventually, after consulting with another doctor, it became clear. Bernie had pneumonia in both lungs and needed emergency care. When Bernie Mac was admitted to the ICU, Rhonda and their daughter rushed to the hospital, hearts heavy with dread. In an interview with the Atlanta Voice, Rhonda recalled the moment she realized there were only 2 paths ahead. "Either you get better or you pass away," she told him. There was no middle ground. Doctors kept Bernie sedated in hopes of stabilizing his condition, but his situation became more dire when he contracted a second strain of pneumonia. After weeks of uncertainty, a glimmer of hope emerged. On August 8, 2008, Bernie finally opened his eyes. Though unable to speak due to the respirator tube in his throat, he was alert. Rhonda rushed to his side, overwhelmed with emotion. "You're awake! My God, do you know who I am?" she asked. Bernie, ever the comedian, gave her a look that said it all. "Girl, please." With her spirits lifted, Rhonda waited in the hospital's lounge as Bernie was taken in for another procedure. But as the hours passed, a sudden chill swept through the room. She felt it deep in her soul. Something wasn't right. When she was finally allowed back into the recovery room, the sight broke her. Bernie's eyes were wide open and his body trembled. She pleaded with him. "I'm here. I'm waiting for you. I'll take care of you. Just don't die." But a few hours later, on August 9, 2008, Bernie Mac passed away. He was only 50. He had once said, "I never watch what somebody else does. It does not matter." Bernie Mac got to do his thing. What did I want to do? To be the best within myself. And that's exactly what he became. In the aftermath of his passing, Rhonda filed a $50,000 wrongful death lawsuit against his dermatologist, Dr. Renee Earls, citing negligence during Bernie's final days. But as time passed, she chose to drop the suit, perhaps seeking peace more than retribution. Tributes to Bernie poured in. He was posthumously honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the University of Illinois Hospital named a new health center in his memory. Rhonda, while grieving, poured her heart into running the Bernie Mac Foundation, determined to carry on the legacy of the man she had loved for over 3 decades. In time, grief gave way to gratitude. "I miss him every day," Rhonda said, "but he's in my heart." Then, 6 months after Bernie's death, life surprised her again. Her sister called and said, "I just met your next husband." That man was Horace Gilmore, a family friend whose own wife had recently passed. He had been a longtime member of Rhonda's parents' church, and their families had known each other for decades. At first, Rhonda wanted nothing to do with dating or love. But when she and Horace crossed paths again at a mutual friend's party, something shifted. Despite the heartbreak, a new chapter quietly began. Their first date was anything but ordinary. Horace took Rhonda to a Chicago Bulls game, followed by dinner, and then back to his apartment, where the conversation never seemed to end. By the time she left, 13 hours had passed. It wasn't just a date, it was a connection that neither of them saw coming. Sometime later, Rhonda had a vivid dream. In it, she and Horace were together at her home, when suddenly, Bernie walked through the front door. In the dream, she turned to Horace and told him he had to leave. Her husband was home. But Bernie looked at her calmly and said, "No, Rhonda. Let him stay. It's okay. I'm not here to stay." When she woke up, the meaning was crystal clear. Bernie had come to give his blessing, to let her know it was okay to open her heart again. On New Year's Eve in 2010, Rhonda and Horace were married. As of today, their bond remains strong, and Rhonda has found joy once more, not just as a wife, but also as a proud grandmother. In a 2017 interview with Cuisine Noire, Rhonda reflected on her journey and called Bernie the greatest love of her life. In a message directed to him, she said, "It's sad that you had to leave this earth for me to stand and shine. But now I'm standing on my own. Thank you so much." Inside Bernie Mac's former home, a silent tribute to a comedy legend. Nestled in the quiet Chicago suburb of Frankfort, Illinois, Bernie Mac's former home stands as a quiet, almost sacred reminder of the life he built through talent, resilience, and love. This sprawling 3-story brick mansion once echoed with laughter, both from Bernie's booming voice and the family and friends he welcomed with open arms. With 20 rooms and over 7,000 square feet of space, the house was more than just a residence. It was a personal sanctuary. The interior boasted high ceilings, warm wood finishes, and large windows that flooded the home with natural light. Bernie's favorite space was the family room, where he could kick back, enjoy a good movie, or pull off one of his many practical jokes on Rhonda, his beloved wife. The kitchen was Rhonda's domain, especially on weekends, when she would cook his favorite meals while Bernie teased her about lunch before breakfast was even done. Upstairs, the master suite offered serene views of the backyard, with a private balcony that overlooked the landscaped lawn and pool. But today, the home is eerily quiet. Since Bernie's passing in 2008, the property has changed ownership and fallen into disrepair. Cracked pavement, overgrown shrubs, and weathered bricks tell a different story now, a stark contrast to the life that once pulsed through its walls. To fans who make the quiet drive to glimpse it from the street, the house isn't just a building. It's a symbol. A place where Bernie Mac, the boy from the South Side, found peace, comfort, and joy. Though the laughter is gone, the house still stands, weathered but proud, holding on to the legacy of a man who once filled every room with unforgettable life. Now we want to hear from you. What part of Bernie Mac's life moved you the most? And what do you think is his greatest legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more powerful stories about the lives behind the legends, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.